Hey guys, and welcome back to the Fantasy Line. And today we got a lot to talk about. Let's go over a little recap of the game. The Cowboys beat the Giants tonight. Giants look good. Neighbors, again, just another hot name, goes out there, has 15 targets, 12 receptions, 115 yards. Man, am I starting to think Neighbors is better than Marv. That was phenomenal. He did get in concussion. He was ruled for a concussion at the end of the game. So, we're going to have to monitor that going forward. But what are your guys' thoughts on the game?
Neighbors over his last 3 weeks is averaging 15 targets a game. That is like Cooper Kupp type numbers as a rookie. So I just think the sky is the ceiling for this man. He could literally break fantasy this year. This is back-to-back weeks of over 23 PPR points, which is just absurd. Like I said, like everyone knows I love Malik Neighbors. So yeah, man, no big takeaways from that other than he's just continuing the ball out. When it comes to the Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb did his thing. Looked like he was about to explode for, a 50-point game, but he only came down with 7 for 98 and a touchdown, just a, 24-point or 23.5-point PPR game there. And some, solid, but it could have been a lot more. And then, Rico Dowdle was their leading running back. He had all the carries. He had 11 carries in this offense. There's only 7 other carries total. He had 46 yards, and we also had that receiving touchdown he had on their first drive. So Rico Dowdle could be taking over this backfield slowly but surely. I'm a Rico Dowdle owner, so I'm hoping to see that from him. But what do you think, Isaiah?
I think it was a good game. I think the Giants. I don't know. I think Daniel Jones gets a bad rap, especially coming back from his ACL. Like, this has been his, first couple games back from his ACL. And, like, last season, he was dealing with a neck injury and then, he tore his ACL. So I think, Daniel Jones has been playing better. I know, like, he didn't throw any touchdowns. So he had a pick at the end of the game, kind of like the Hail Mary situation. So I'm not really going to, like, down him for that interception whatsoever. Like, he's just trying to make a play. I think Neighbors is just good. He is getting all of the targets. I guess Wan'Dale Robinson also had, Wan'Dale Robinson had 14 targets.
Yeah.
It's really only those two guys on really that passing game. I know they have Slayton there. Slayton's an older guy. Singletary didn't really do much. We expected a big game out of Singletary after seeing the Ravens this last Sunday where they just ran all over the Cowboys. Cowboys kind of held it down on the run defense. They definitely played a lot better on the run defense. So Slayton kind of had a very kind of depressing game. I expected him to have a bigger game. And then on the Cowboys side, Dak's doing his thing. I think Dak's good. I think Dak is honestly, like, as a QB situation right now throughout the league, it's kind of been like inconsistent. I think Dak is going to be one of the most consistent QBs because of that offense is just purely just passing. Like, they have Rico Dowdle there. He didn't do too much on the ground. Like I said, he had 46 yards rushing the ball. But other than that, like, that's not anything too special. But they, passed the ball a ton.
Yeah, and I think another key takeaway from this game is Micah Parsons went down with an injury as well as Trayvon Diggs. Trayvon Diggs looked like it was like a cramp or something, or some with his ankle. But it's just 2 injuries to monitor on that defense. And then also just one last takeaway. Wan'Dale Robinson, if you tune into the TikTok, I said he was a sneaky start this week. Goes out there, has 11 for 71, 14 targets. I think he could be a flex every week flex start moving forward just with this volume and what we see Daniel Jones doing. If you watch the game, he just looked good. He didn't look bad. It's going to Neighbors or Wan'Dale. That's where this offense is leaded. But all right, getting to our first topic.
For Wan'Dale, though, you just need targets. Like, that's the issue. It's like he's not going to get yards. He's not like Neighbors whatsoever. You just got to hope he gets 5+. He's probably going to need more than that. Like, I saw most of this, like, he had a lot of, like, yards after the catch. Like, he had 37 yards after catch out of his 71 yards, which is kind of a decent amount. So he had 11 targets. Like, he didn't really do much. So you just got to hope that volume continues.
And I will say that Malik Neighbors did go down with a concussion in this game, unfortunately. So that's going to be something we're going to be monitoring throughout the week. Looking forward to next week. I think that with this being a Thursday game, he should be able to go by Sunday. But we're gonna have to monitor that heading forward against when you play Seattle in Week 5. So.
Okay. All right. Now moving on to our first topic. We're gonna do this or that. I'm gonna pop 2 players up on the screen, their stats through 3 games of the year, and we're gonna say if you guys like player 1 or player 2 better. Starting at wide receiver, we got player 1 with 19 targets, 14 receptions, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns, 39.6 fantasy points, 13.3 points per game. Then we got player 2, 26 targets, 15 receptions, 150 yards, 1 touchdown, 36.5 fantasy points, 12 points per game. Who would you rather have rest of season?
Did you say player 2 has 26 targets? Because it's not showing up on my screen. Oh, it's okay. I see it. 26 targets. I am just based off these stats right here. I'm gonna go with targets wins and targets are earned, and I'm gonna say player 2 with 26 targets. He has more yards. He has 1 less touchdown. I honestly have no clue who these players are, so these are some good numbers Alex pulled up. But I'm gonna say player 2 just because of the targets, and even with his targets, he's still producing at a high level. I think that he can bring down. He only has 15 catches on 26 targets, so he definitely can bring down some more positive regression there. So I'm going player 2.
Yeah, I agree with Joe. Like that's 26 targets. That's a decent amount of targets. So I think definitely the stats could definitely be better if he caught a couple more of those balls. But I'm going to go with player 2 as well.
Okay, well, player 1 was my guy Drake London, and then player 2 was Garrett Wilson. So
Okay.
I mean, based off stats alone, Drake London so far is playing better than Garrett Wilson. Also, in a recent TikTok, I said sell high on Garrett Wilson. I still do believe he would be a good sell high because I think you could get a lot for him. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I like these stats right here. These are definitely misleading in some sort of a way just because we don't know who these players are. But I'm like my long-term season take is I agree with what I said. I'm taking Garrett Wilson over Drake London. And we could see Garrett Wilson get all the targets in this offense. And I still think that he's going to be good. I don't think he's going to be this, league-winning receiver. I also don't think Drake London's going to be this league-winning receiver. But I think that if they were, I think Garrett Wilson would have a much higher chance. So, yeah, I'm cool with this, and I'm taking Garrett Wilson over Drake London in most cases.
Yeah, I agree with Joe. I mean, Drake London's good, but I think Garrett Wilson is just a better – we've seen Garrett Wilson produce with Zach Wilson throwing him the ball and Mike White throwing him the ball. And I'm pretty sure Tim Boyle was a quarterback at one point. And so we've seen Garrett Wilson produce with people who aren't as good as Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball whatsoever. So I do think, I think Aaron Rodgers and him are going to start getting that connection. They're going to start connecting more and completing more passes together. And that's Garrett Wilson is Aaron Rodgers' go-to guy. So I think I'd still picking Garrett Wilson over Drake London any day.
Yeah.
I still think that Garrett Wilson does have a little edge over Drake London, but as we see this chemistry go with Drake London and Kirk Cousins, he's got touchdowns in back-to-back games. He has a 43% chance or 43% first option read, meaning that's the first way Kirk Cousins looks when he hikes the ball, to Drake London, 43% of the time, which is phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, you still got to go.
Wilson?
I'm not sure what Garrett Wilson is, but it's not 43. But yeah, I still say Garrett Wilson over Drake London, but I think Drake London is a solid every week start. Okay, moving on to the running back position. Player 1, we got 40 attempts, 207 rush yards, 1 touchdown, 13 targets, 11 receptions, 76 yards, and a touchdown. 51.3 points, 17.1 points per game, 53% snap share. And then player 2, we got 42 attempts, 228 yards, 1 touchdown, 14 targets, 12 receptions, 97 yards, and yeah. What do you guys think about that?
Just briefly looking over these stats right here, they have relatively.
Oh, let me object real quick. My stats cut off. Player 2 has 1 touchdown, 54.5 fantasy points, and 18.1 points per game with a 58.6% snap share.
Okay, Okay, so it looks like these guys have relatively the same amount of opportunity with their snap shares and with their attempts and with their targets. They both have relatively the same, like plus or minus a couple here and there. So they're getting the same amount of opportunity. Player 2 looks like he's producing more. He has 20 more rushing yards. He has 20 more receiving yards. So I mean, with this, I mean, I'm just going to take the player who has the better stats. I mean, this is kind of skewed because we don't know who these players are. But I like 58% of the snaps. I'm taking that over 51, and I'm taking 228 over 207. So I'm just going to go straight statistical here, and I'm just going to take player 2 and see what happens.
Yeah, from the stats, I mean, of course, I'm gonna pick player 2. I mean, it doesn't look like player 1. I mean, if they probably had the same opportunities as player 2, I mean, I guess they basically do have the same opportunities, but same kind of snap share. I think player 2 would probably, or player 1 would probably be better than player 2, just based off of if they had an increase in snap shares. Because even like 53%, and they have the same attempts as somebody's getting 60% of the ball, basically, is pretty good. So I mean, I'm still guessing I'm going to go with player 2.
Yeah, this kind of surprised me looking at it. Just about these players. Player 1 is actually Jahmyr Gibbs, and player 2 is Aaron Jones. So, what do you guys think about Aaron Jones? I like the buy on Aaron Jones if you can get him, because I think he will be good rest of the year if he does not get hurt. And then Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, he just produces. Like, he's solid, but I feel like his upside's almost a little bit capped with Monty basically guaranteed 17 points a game. Where Aaron Jones, on the other hand, Ty Chandler's not getting any work. So he's pretty much the workhorse running back 1 in that Vikings explosive offense. What do you guys think?
Good pull with this one. This was a good little comparison here. Obviously, we saw Jahmyr Gibbs being like on the turn of the first and second round going into drafts, and we saw Aaron Jones going in like the 7th, 8th round. So yeah, this is good little stats here to back these players up. But with Aaron Jones, he's just been injury prone over these last couple of years. Well, I mean, like last year he missed 5 games. 6 games he missed last year. And he's a 29-year-old running back. He's hitting that age cliff, in my opinion. So I said player 2 because of stats, but now that I know it's Aaron Jones, I still have Jahmyr Gibbs ranked higher than Aaron Jones. But not to shame on Aaron Jones, man. He's been putting together every time he's on the field, he looks good. But I'm worried about his health, and I'm just worried that Sam Darnold could keep up this production to keep the Vikings in these games and to keep Aaron Jones on the field. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I honestly had a feeling that player 1 was Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, I knew I have him. I was thinking about calling it out that it was Jahmyr Gibbs, but I don't know. I'm a fan of Jahmyr Gibbs. I like him. He also, by the way, he has 2 touchdowns, not 1. So stat that. Anyway, I'd prefer Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that offense is definitely better for the Lions. Offensive line's better. The team's better. I think everything's just better for Jahmyr Gibbs. I think honestly he's not even playing bad. I just like Jahmyr Gibbs more, especially because I think he has more of like an explosive upside compared to Aaron Jones, where it's like that offense. It has been playing good, but Aaron Jones is old. And I just like explosive players way more. Like I'd rather have Jahmyr Gibbs over Aaron Jones any day. So I mean, I'd probably switch back to player 1.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Now knowing the players, obviously you want Jahmyr Gibbs, but it just comes to show how explosive Aaron Jones has been. I mean, you said he wasn't an explosive player. He seems explosive out there for his age. Everyone thinking he's gonna fall off a cliff going to the Vikings, not having that good Packers offensive line with David Bakhtiari. But I mean, they look good. The Vikings are scoring, so I think that's a huge benefit for Aaron Jones. And as long as Aaron Jones stays healthy,
on the Vikings,
Packers, like he didn't have Bakhtiari. Yeah, so like switching
2 years.
Yeah, I know, but just that's the guy I can think of. But yeah, just it comes to show just like how similar these players are, with 17.1 points per game, with Aaron Jones at 18.1 points per game. And they're the same running back pretty much going forward the rest of the year.
I got a question. for Alex, do you think that these players, this is week 3, do you think these players are going to stay this close at the end of the season?
I do think they're going to be pretty close. I'm going to say they're both top 10 running backs rest of the year, in my opinion. I think they're both going to be closer to the 9-10 range. Also depending on Aaron Jones's health, but I feel like Jahmyr Gibbs, he can have huge explosive weeks, but Montgomery's going to get touches. Where Aaron Jones could go out there and have 40, and Ty Chandler's not really going to get too much touches. But Jahmyr Gibbs rest of the season is definitely the safer play. But yeah, just like overall with these stats so far, they're both getting receptions in the receiving game, and they're both also running the ball a lot. So yeah, I think they're going to be relatively close rest of the year.
Okay. I was just curious about that.
With honestly, like, you bringing up Montgomery, I'm not worried about Montgomery one bit. Like, he's good. He's in that backfield. But like, that's not going to stop me from like wanting Gibbs. I'd rather have Gibbs share a backfield with Montgomery than Gibbs be out there every play, just because like Montgomery's a bigger back compared to Gibbs. Gibbs is a scat pack. And like, that's like, I think Gibbs compared to Aaron Jones, Gibbs can explode for a phenomenal week if, he has the opportunities to do it. It's just, I feel like just Gibbs has that higher upside.
It's like Alvin Kamara, his like first couple of years when Mark Ingram was there. Something I can compare it to. Like, Kamara was that, scat, shifty guy catching the ball at the backfield. And then Mark Ingram was that pound the rock, and on the goal line, everything. And I mean, Alvin Kamara was his first 3 years in the league was the RB3, the RB4, and the RB9. And Mark Ingram was there too. Mark Ingram was still producing as a running back, maybe not to the volume as Dave Montgomery, but it's still a relatively similar situation. So, I'm not, as a Gibbs owner, like if I was a Gibbs owner, I would not be worried about Montgomery just because they complement each other so well, and this team is built to have both of them on their team. So,
yeah, I'm not saying I'm worried about Gibbs at all, but just putting it into like a different perspective. So would you guys say you guys are buy, selling, or holding both of these players?
I would sell Aaron Jones.
I'd buy Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that he has not. I think his best games are still to come. I think that 17 points per game is really good, but he hasn't had an explosive game. He's just gotten 17 points every single game. Like, there hasn't been that like that range of differences there. So I'd buy Jahmyr Gibbs, just see maybe someone that's like, oh man, I wish I would have gotten more from this. And then I'd probably just hold Aaron Jones and just ride out what he's doing right now. So, yeah,
for me, I'm buying both of them. Just a question: would you guys rather have Travis Etienne or no? We're gonna go James Cook or Aaron Jones rest of the season.
James Cook. That's easy.
I feel like that's closer though than you think. I like Aaron Jones.
I think that Aaron Jones is going to get hurt. Honestly, I know that's bad to say, but I think it's inevitable at this point. And I think
James Cook is just way more explosive than Aaron Jones. I'm still.
And then we're gonna go one more. We're gonna go Kyren Williams or Jahmyr Gibbs.
I'm gonna go Kyren.
I was gonna say Kyren because he's getting 90% of the.
Yeah, he's getting everything. So I'm gonna go Kyren.
Yeah, I also agree, Kyren. Just that volume's just insane. I mean, if you're doing player props this week, I got him over half a touchdown against Chicago, but that's whatever. All right, moving on to the quarterback position. We got player 1, 842 pass yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 13 rush attempts, 64 rushing yards, 66.5 points, 22 points per game. Then player 2, we have 659 pass yards, 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 12 rush attempts, 49 yards, 57 points, 18.5 points per game. Who are you guys taking rest of season?
I have a feeling I know who player 2 is. Just based off Alex's ability to skew these stats to just snap on Isaiah. But I have a feeling that QB2 was drafted high, and I have a feeling that QB1 was not drafted high, just based off the way Alex wants to play this game. So when it comes to the stats, I'm just going to take player 1 and see where it goes.
Yeah, I know little schemy guy wants to do something. I'm going to go with the guy who has his players hurt, his number one weapon hurt, and I think I'm going to go player 2.
All right, who are the players?
Well, who do you guys suspect these players to be?
I personally think I don't know who player 1 is, but I know player 2 is Patrick Mahomes.
Who does Isaiah think player 2 is?
I think player 2 is Hurts, and I think player 1 is Purdy.
Well, you guys are both 50-50. Player 1 is Brock Purdy, but player 2 is Patrick Mahomes.
I knew it, bro. I see. The thing is, I was like, this might be Hurts. I was like, wait, Hurts has like 150 rushing yards.
Yeah,
So.
that's. But
I mean,
yeah, definitely
not.
He
had that many rushing yards.
He's like,
definitely not
90
skewing
in
these
one game.
stats. How do you guys think I'm skewing these stats? These are just the stats of the quarterback.
I mean, this is the way you want to play the game. You want to make it so it looks like QB1 as in Patrick Mahomes. I mean, okay, I have a little bit to say about Patrick Mahomes here. I am just done. I'm sorry. I don't think he's an elite fantasy quarterback anymore. I had him last year. I have him in my dynasty league. And yeah, he's a great value in dynasty, but he's not getting it done as a fantasy perspective anyways. Like over his last literal year of playing in the NFL, like 17 games, he's only been like a top 8 quarterback twice. Only been a top 8 quarterback twice in the last 17 games. This is just something that has just become a standard for the Chiefs. They win ball games, but they win ball games in different ways. They don't, stretch the field. They don't have Tyreek Hill. They don't have these speed demons anymore. Where Patrick Mahomes can just obviously they have Xavier Worthy, but they're not using him as that field stretcher as much as they should. But I'm done with Patrick Mahomes, man. I'm sorry. If he blows up, then so be it. I just think that his time as an elite fantasy quarterback, like the Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, is over. I think it's now just Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen. And Patrick Mahomes is going to take a backseat to that. He may be the best quarterback in the league, but that doesn't mean he's the best fantasy quarterback in the league. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like after the bye last year is when we saw the change in Patrick Mahomes, where he became their team became very run heavy. Early bye this year, they have bye week 6. I think that it's going to change the opposite direction where they know, I think Mahomes is going to play better. I think Kelsey's going to play better. I think Kelsey's been lollygagging too much with Taylor Swift. Hasn't been really in game shape. I don't think he's filming all these commercials. He's doing all the other things where it's like Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey is there's something weird about it. And I think Kelsey pretty soon is going to start playing better. I think that'll help this team out a lot more. I can see Patrick Mahomes playing a lot better. I think he's I won't say he's arguably he's on GOAT potential. And I think players go through slumps. Every player has those couple games where just they are in an absolute slump. And I can see Patrick Mahomes getting out of this and him just erupting, especially because he has Xavier Worthy, he has Kelsey, he has Rice. All those players are really good, and I can see them, especially I know there's rumors about them picking up another wide receiver. If they pick up another wide receiver, that'd be awesome. But even with the wide receiver, the core they have now, I think that they can be better. And I think Patrick Mahomes still has that elite upside.
Yeah, my thing is with how much longer can we expect Patrick Mahomes to do what he did in 2022? I mean, he just balled out in 2022 with 500 fantasy points and a 4 points per passing touchdown format. And he finished as the QB1. So, I mean, this is just where Patrick Mahomes gets his name value at this point, because the last 2 years, we haven't seen anything. Or last year, we haven't seen anything, like Joe was saying earlier. So I feel like it's almost like Patrick Mahomes. It's a new Patrick Mahomes now. I think he's always going to get drafted early based on his name value, compared to a player like Brock Purdy, who's getting drafted in the 10th, 11th round of your drafts, who outperforms Patrick Mahomes on a week-to-week basis. But people in your league would want Patrick Mahomes because of name value. So yeah, as of right now, I would still stick with Patrick Mahomes, honestly, because of name value. But I'd give it to about week 6, maybe see what happens if he has a huge game. But then if Purdy's still being solid, I would go with Purdy rest of the year. How do you guys see this? Would you go Purdy or Mahomes rest of the year?
Just a couple more notes on Mahomes. I'm just gonna name out his last like 8 games when it comes to fantasy, going back to last year, starting in week 11. So we got week 11 of last year. He was QB 15, then he was QB 8, but then it was QB 16, QB 20, QB 14, QB 16, QB 25. That was the end last year. Going into this year, he's gone QB 12, QB 14, and QB 15. It's like how many of these games of being QB 14 are we gonna be like, oh, he's gonna come back? He's gonna be Patrick Mahomes.
Go before week 11.
Before week 11, he was QB 12, QB 30. Then he was QB 1, QB 7, and then 11, 17, 5, 11, 7. So it was like 4 games throughout the entire year of being a top quarterback. I'm sorry. Like, I'd rather have these other guys.
Saying we saw that shift at the end of them running the ball more with Isaiah Pacheco and them basically him becoming more of a game manager, I guess. I think that this team, they're going to need to put up, I think, like points pretty soon. I think they play. I don't know their whole schedule.
I mean, you say they need to put up points, but they're 3-0. Like they're winning.
Yeah, because their defense. I'm saying like they're just been
exactly.
Their defense has been so good.
I mean,
like they're just going to rely on the defense.
Steve Spagnuolo's got that defense playing great at last year, this year. I think that this is just going to continue, man. I think that they're not even going to have to throw the ball as much. I think they can still run it with Carson Steele and just be that same team. So that's just my opinion on it.
So are we buying or selling Brock Purdy and Patrick Mahomes?
I'm selling Mahomes. I'm selling Mahomes and getting as much as I can for name value personally. And I'm holding Purdy.
I'm going to hold Mahomes and I'm going to buy Purdy.
Yeah, I agree. I'm buying Purdy and I am hold/selling Mahomes. I'll try to sell him if you can get a good value for him. Otherwise, just hold him. But all right, moving on to Isaiah.
All right, we got hot to go. These are players who are hot and have been. I mean, no, I guess one of the top players really hasn't been hot, but these are players who I am going to trade for no matter what. Like the value is. The value might be pretty high on these players. I'm still willing to pay a bag for these players because I feel like they're just ready to go. The first one is Nico Collins. He has started the season off strong. I know last week he didn't have the best outing, but he still had almost 100 yards receiving. Right now he has 18 receptions for 333 yards and 1 touchdown. That's pretty solid, especially coming to week 4. Especially last week, they kind of got blown out pretty quickly. So I think there's still a lot of potential for Nico Collins. What do you guys think about him being a hot-to-go player?
Man, this is my guy. I love Nico Collins. I mean, I've said it in previous podcasts. I was low on him going into the year. Didn't know what to expect, adding Stephon Diggs. But if you can buy him now, I would. After last week, I mean, I'm not even putting the blame on CJ Stroud. It was just the whole Texans played bad. I'm putting more blame on CJ Stroud than Nico Collins. We didn't really get any offense going. And Nico Collins still goes out there and has a great game. What were his stats in that game? Does anyone know?
For last game, he had 4 catches for 86 yards.
Yeah, 4 catches for 86 yards, but then he had 10 targets. But also, something to note, Davis Mills came in that game, and I know it was the last possession, but the starters were still in, and he threw 4 straight red zone targets to Nico Collins. So I think that is something positive to look at. If Stroud were to go down, Davis Mills is just going to throw the ball to Nico Collins. Nico Collins didn't catch any of those passes. But yeah, it was just a good sight. And I think Nico Collins is almost a lock for 100 yards a week, especially going against Jacksonville this week. I think he has true potential to finish as the wide receiver 1, as we've seen what teams have done to Jacksonville. I mean, everyone on the Bills scored a touchdown. Kincaid, Shakir, James Cook dropped a passing touchdown. Yeah, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, and I think Nico Collins can finish as the wide receiver 1. So I'm buying him.
I mean, I like Nico Collins. I think he's great. I think he's super underrated as just a talented receiver in the NFL. So yeah, I'd buy Nico Collins if I could. And if I have Nico Collins, I'm not trading him at all.
Yeah, I agree. Nico's a buy, or if you have him, I'm holding him. Next hot to go player, honestly, he's pretty hot right now, is Saquon Barkley. He has 63 carries for 351 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. He also has 10 receptions for 53 yards and 1 touchdown. I think this man with an offensive line has just been ready, just been waiting to just explode. I mean, he's had crazy games with the Giants, but I think with the Eagles, they are treating this man with a royally phenomenal offensive line. And so I think he, no matter what, I mean, it's probably going to be expensive. If you can trade for him, I'd say trade for him. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think he's gonna be the RB1.
Yeah, on the last podcast, we were discussing if we were to redraft today, who would be the 101. And I think we all kind of came to an agreement that Saquon would definitely be in the discussion, if not be the 101. So, trying to trade for Saquon Barkley is paying for the 101, basically. So I think it's damn near impossible to do. But if for some reason you could somehow do it and still come away with some value there and not give up your entire team, yeah, I'm buying Saquon Barkley, but it's going to be really hard.
Yeah, and I just want to add something. I know it's not like the ones episode, but these first two players I think are going to finish as the wide receiver one, Nico Collins this week, and the running back one, Saquon Barkley this week, as it goes up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they have just an awful run defense. And I don't think Devontae Smith's going to play, and I don't think A.J. Brown's going to play. So it's going to be Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goedert, and Saquon Barkley. And I think Saquon's a lock for 20 touches this week, 5 targets, and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I also just want to throw something out there. I want to throw, would you guys rather have Rashee Rice and David Montgomery or Saquon Barkley?
I'd rather have Rashee Rice side.
Yeah.
I think Rashee Rice is a locked in top 7 wide receiver moving forward. We haven't really talked about him when it comes to rankings.
We'll get into him.
He's
on here.
We'll probably get into him later, but he is an absolute dog. So I'm taking Rashee Rice.
Next two, going with we love rookies. Well, me and Joseph love rookies. We're going to get into our rookies. And I think Neighbors and Harrison are both hot to go. I think they're both two completely different styles of players. But I think both of them are, I trade for them. I mean, I traded for Marvin Harrison. I'd trade a pretty big bag for Neighbors, and I think I'd trade a pretty big bag. I don't know. I feel like Harrison, you can definitely get cheaper than Neighbors, but I think after this week, after he plays Washington, I think it's going to be completely different. Neighbors, counting today's stats, he has 35 receptions, 386 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Harrison has 10 catches for 198 yards and 3 touchdowns going into week 4. I mean, Marvin Harrison hasn't played yet. I think both these guys are ready to explode. I think both of them not both of them. Neighbors had a good game today. I think Marvin Harrison is going to honestly be a top 3 wide receiver this week. Honestly, he could be one. Him versus the Washington Commanders, who absolutely cannot stop a fly if they wanted to. Their secondary is terrible, and I feel like Marvin Harrison and Kyler haven't really been on the same page. There's been a couple of things. There's been it's either been Marvin Harrison's been a little bit off or Murray's been a little bit off. But I'm pretty sure once those two play a couple more games together, I mean, it could just be this game where their connection just connects. I think Marvin Harrison is going to be a phenomenal wide receiver the rest of the season. And I think Neighbors is already showing he's getting tons of volume. What do you guys think?
I mean, yeah, we're talking about my guy, Malik Neighbors. And no shame to Marvin Harrison. I just think Malik Neighbors is going to be better than him this year. Malik Neighbors continuing to be the wide receiver 1 overall in fantasy, balling out tonight. Like I said, he's averaging 15 targets over his last 3 games. He's on pace for 204 targets this year, which is absolutely absurd. Those are just insane numbers. 2021 Cooper Kupp numbers right there. So this man is great, but I'd be buying Marvin Harrison as well. I think he's amazing too. I think that him and Kyle are going to get back on the same page, like Isaiah was saying. And these guys are just so good, such good players, being drafted 4th and 6th overall in the NFL draft, and well-deservingly too. We can see, obviously, these guys are just better than everyone else, honestly. That's all I got to say about that. So,
yeah, man, do I keep going back and forth. But I think it's safe to say that Marvin Harrison was drafted in the ideal fantasy situation with Daniel Jones because the New
Malik
York
Neighbors.
Giants, yeah, Malik Neighbors, because the New York Giants are going to be trailing every single game they play. And we see what they do when they're trailing. They just throw the ball. They don't got the best running game. I mean, Devin Singletary's look good, but they're going to need to throw the ball to win. And as we see Malik Neighbors go for 7 targets, 18 targets, 12 targets, and 15 targets in the last 4 games is just absolutely wild. Like, I was not expecting this going into the year at all. He seriously looks like he's going to be a league winner this year. We are going to have to monitor that concussion because I know the NFL takes their safety precautions very safely now. So he could miss a week. I don't know if it's likely because it is a Thursday game and he doesn't play till next Sunday. So I think he should be fine. Yeah, I think he should be fine for next week. But yeah, I think it's safe to say that Neighbors is a locked in top 3 wide receiver rest of the year.
Bro, I agree. That may be a hot take, but I 100% agree that Malik Neighbors is cementing himself into like the CeeDee Lamb range slowly but surely, just because of his situation. I mean, not even his situation, his talent. Like, he's just so good. If everyone saw that route today, I think it was like a 35-yard catch where he just absolutely destroyed the corner on his first catch of the night. And like, come on, man, that's just some crazy stuff right there. So I agree.
Yeah, I think both these players are going to be good. On to the next, going to my guy. I have loved this guy in the offseason. He was a high draft player for me. I drafted, if every league he fell to me, I would pick him up a round earlier. I was reaching for him in the 5th, which I think he should have gone before that, is Rashee Rice. Patrick Mahomes is number 1 guy. Mahomes is going to do better. But even Mahomes playing the same way, Rice has been his guy. So far in 3 games, Rice has 24 receptions, 388 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Compared to last season, his whole season stats, Rashee Rice had 79 receptions and 938 yards and 7 touchdowns. Rashee Rice is on pace to break that by week 12, about week 12. So, like, I think Rashee Rice is just getting better, and I feel like he's going to be the reason why Mahomes gets into that top echelon of being a good fantasy QB again. What do you guys think about Rashee Rice?
Yeah, man. I said this before. I'm gonna say it again. I wish I would have drafted this man. There was a little thing in the back of my head where I was like, I need to remember to draft Rashee Rice because his ADP is just super, super skewed right now. And I completely forgot that on draft day. Like, literally just went straight over my head and I just completely forgot about it. I should have wrote it down or something because now I am, missing out on potentially the wide receiver 1 this season. Honestly, I think that's his ceiling. I think his ceiling is the wide receiver 1 overall, just because he's tied to Patrick Mahomes. And although I don't think Patrick Mahomes is gonna be good for fantasy, I think Rashee Rice will be great for fantasy as we've seen so far. So yeah, man, I love.
Yeah, I got a hot take for Rice. I think right now he's obviously playing great. He's a top 5 receiver in the league right now, fantasy wise. But I think if you can sell Rashee Rice for like a Nico Collins and like a David Montgomery, or like straight up for like Jamar Chase, I would. I think Rashee Rice will still perform good. I think he's a lock for 15 points a week. But I mean, just these last 3 weeks have been crazy. He's had 25 plus. He had 30 points last week. This is just with my thought process that I think Kelsey will do better, and teams are going to start focusing on Rashee Rice. So I think he would be a sell only for the right price, though.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it'd be hard. I mean, Rashee Rice is Patrick Mahomes' is number 1 weapon. Like, I get Mahomes isn't the same Mahomes. He's still Mahomes. He can still sling the ball, and Rashee Rice is his go-to target. Even if Kelsey plays better, it might honestly help Rashee Rice. They're both playing the same sort of area of the field. The thing is that Rashee Rice is still more explosive than Kelsey. Like, Kelsey is more of a possession catch guy, when Rashee Rice is more of a catch it. And I think since last year, I think he's second in yards after catch. if I'm not mistaken, he's pretty high up there in yards after catch. So even if Kelsey starts playing better, I think Rashee Rice can still produce with limited work and still just run after catch. Like we see him play, he breaks tackles, he makes people miss, and he fights for extra yards. I think he's a good. I'm sticking with him the entire. He's a hold for me. If you can sell him for a bag and get as much as you can, then do so. But I think I'm holding on if I have him. I'm even buying it if people are like Alex saying sell him now. I'll buy him, but I'm holding.
Yeah. All right, I got a thing. Rashee Rice or Jonathan Taylor?
I'm going Jonathan Taylor.
They're both two completely different, separate situations.
They're different positions.
Who would you rather have rest of year?
I would rather have Jonathan Taylor. That's my opinion.
How the year's going? Yeah, I'd probably say Jonathan Taylor as a running back.
That's crazy that I'm the one selling sell high on Rashee Rice, but I would rather have Rashee Rice rest of the year than Jonathan Taylor. All right.
We'll get Jonathan Taylor.
I think Taylor is about to explode.
I agree with Joe. I think Anthony Richardson, we figured out, again, he's only played 17 games. He's a bona fide bum right now at this point of his career. Like unless he starts playing like Josh Allen did in his early career, Josh Allen was running all over the field. And like it's like, okay, this kid actually has potential because Josh Allen was hurdling defenders. Josh Allen's been doing that, but in his rookie year, he was doing that way more, and he was just running through people. Like Josh Allen didn't care. Anthony Richardson hasn't done that whatsoever. Yeah, so I think that's why I think Taylor would be their focal point of their offense, and then their their coach is gonna be like, just give him the ball, just give Jonathan Taylor the ball anytime.
In 2021, when Jonathan Taylor was RB1, he had 1,800 rushing yards and 18 touchdowns, and I think he can do that this year. I think that his potential. I think he's going to they're going to give him Derrick Henry treatment. They're going to give him 2021 Jonathan Taylor treatment, where a true runner, he doesn't even need to catch the ball. He had 40 catches in that 2021 year, but he doesn't even need that. If he gets me 1,800 yards and 18 touchdowns, like, come on, man, that's RB1 overall right there. And I think that's what he's about to do. So I think we're just waiting for Jonathan Taylor to destroy fantasy right now.
One more thing. Malik Neighbors or Rashee Rice? Just a quick one.
Rice, because he's on the better team. I'm liking Neighbors, but I'm going with Rice because
I would go Neighbors.
Rice.
I'm going Malik Neighbors.
Okay, not too much. Don't get too much into it. All right.
I'm going Malik Neighbors.
All right, I have one. I'm gonna say it. Would you St. Brown or Rashee Rice?
St. Brown. Yeah, that was a quick one for me.
I think that where Rashee Rice ends is right after Malik Neighbors. And I think between Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison is Rashee Rice.
I think if Rashee Rice keeps this up, he's going to finish top 5 easily.
He could.
I
also think that Malik Neighbors is like a top 5 receiver right now already. So
that's putting him
in that same group.
So it would be like teams are like, all right, Neighbors is their only guy. Let Daniel Jones throw it to everybody else and give him basically what the Patriots used to do for top receivers, was just like, we're going to just put that man on a block and we're going to dare you to throw it to other people. Anyway, my next hot to go player is Dak. Dak is pretty hot right now. It's kind of a hot take. I mean, I think Dak's not a hot take. Dak's hot. Good looking man. Dak has 1,000. He has 1,072 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions currently after, again, week 4. This guy, this offense has no running game, as we talked about earlier. I mean, they do a little bit of Rico Dowdle this game, but other than that, it's not too consistent. But this passing offense, like I think Drake Ferguson is a buy. So I think that's why I love Dak. I think Jake Ferguson is a total buy for me if you need a tight end. And I think this passing offense is just going to get way better than what it has been. I mean, it's kind of starting off slow. I mean, last game he threw for almost 380 yards. But like CeeDee Lamb didn't really do anything last game. But I think I think Dak and this passing offense can become way better. What do you guys think?
I think we're going to start saying a little no homo after you call every player on this list hot. Just to mention that. But yeah, I think I think Dak's a great buy if you can, just with his upcoming schedule, especially for the fantasy playoffs. Week 17, he does versus the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's going to be fireworks. So yeah, I think he's a great buy, and I think his chemistry with CeeDee Lamb is only going to get better. As we saw this last game, CeeDee Lamb produced the first half and didn't do anything the second half. Yeah, I think he's a great buy right now.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the Cowboys as a whole are just good buys, as in CD and Dak. I mean, that's pretty much their whole offense. So yeah, I agree with that. But anyways, looking over to my segment, we're going to be looking at teams that we should be buying. So this is just kind of like looking ahead. These are going to be just teams that have amazing schedules moving forward. And I'm mostly going to be talking about wide receivers and quarterbacks here. So looking at the first team, it's the Chicago Bears. In their next 10 games, in their next 13 games that they play, so in literally until the end of the year, 10 of their matchups are against bottom 10 defenses when it comes to pass and receiver work. So the receivers and the quarterbacks in these games, as in Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and Keenan Allen, are going to absolutely eat. They have the nicest schedule for receivers moving forward and quarterbacks. And I am buying Chicago Bears all over the place. We just saw Caleb Williams have like 300 yards. And I firmly believe that this is a start of Caleb Williams. I think this is where it begins. Just look at the schedule, man. They play Washington and they play Detroit twice during this stretch, and those are just, we know Washington. That's the best matchup possible, and Detroit is the second best matchup, and they play them twice. That is just like, here we go, man. Bombs away. Here comes Caleb Williams. Here comes DJ Moore. Roman Odunze just broke out, so this is the time to buy Chicago Bears. I'm trying to get him in every league I'm in. What do you guys think?
I fully agree. I just picked up Cole Kmet. I think he can also become a really good player. I know like Keenan Allen's coming back, and I know like Keenan Allen and Cole Kmet kind of play the same kind of role. But I think I can see Cole Kmet playing a bigger role in this offense, especially because he's that tight end position's kind of been up and down this season. But I think Cole Kmet can have a really good rest of the year. So if you need to pick up a tight end, I think you pick up Cole Kmet just in case his offense does begin to explode. I agree. The only thing is that their offensive line's terrible. Like their offensive line is like, if they can save this man's life, I think Caleb Williams would probably be playing way better. But instead, you see highlights of him really trying to run around like he's in college and then absolutely getting popped or bad to break out. So I think I agree. I think I'm buying Bears wide receivers. I think they can definitely play way better.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Bears' schedule is very nice, looking at all the green moving forward. But I still think this is a very hot take because of Caleb Williams. If you have watched the Bears play, it is not good. I mean, last game he had 70 of his passing yards on a Hail Mary catch by DJ Moore. So I don't know if I'm invested in the Bears yet until I see something spectacular out of Caleb Williams. I know he just went out and threw for 300 yards, but I have to see a little more before I invest.
Okay. Yeah, man. I mean, I just think that this is the time to get them because they are going to explode. And then moving over to two other teams that I believe, first one is going to be the Eagles. I know that they have a lot of people hurt, but I think this is the window to buy them. I think this is the window to buy A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith. Those three specifically is who I'm mentioning here. I think this is your time because after their bye week in week 5, I'm expecting A.J. Brown to be back. I'm expecting Devontae Smith to be back. And 8 of their last 9 matchups are against bottom 7 defenses and against wide receivers and quarterbacks. So bottom 7. So the bottom 7 defenses, they're playing all of them in 8 of their last matchups. And this is just the time, man. I take this back to last year. We saw Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb last year. They had a week 5 bye, I believe, just like the Eagles. And then everyone was saying, hey, buy Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb because look at their schedule. It's amazing, and they're elite, and it's going to win leagues. I am saying it right now. That's exactly what's going to happen with the Eagles this year. I firmly believe that. I firmly believe that Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith are going to come out after their bye and just go guns a-blazing on these defenses. and just show why Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown and all these guys are just elite players. Yeah, man. I mean, they play Washington twice during the stretch. Those are both in week 16. So the semifinals of your playoffs, they play Washington. If you make it to there and you have one of these dudes, you're winning that game. Like, I'm confident in that because we saw last year, if you have AJ Brown had like 40 points both times he played Washington. So this is going to be smash plays left and right for the Eagles offense. So what do you guys think about this take?
I 100% agree with you, Joe. I'm a fan of Kellen Moore. He did good things when he was on the Cowboys. Last year at the Chargers, it was okay. I mean, Mike Williams got hurt towards ACL. Keenan Allen was up and down. Austin Eckler was up and down. So that whole team was kind of in shambles. But I think Kellen Moore in this offense is going to be explosive. I totally agree with everything. I love the Eagles going forward. I'm a Jalen Hurts fan. I'm an A.J. Brown fan. A.J. Brown has been my wide receiver for the last 4 years. I've had him in fantasy for the last 4 years. I'm an A.J. Brown fan. I think he's the number one wide receiver on this team for sure. I mean, I think, after their bye, I think this team's going to be a very explosive team, especially with Saquon too, where it's like they have to pick their poison on if they want to stop the run or if they want to stop the pass. And it's like, do you either want to double team AJ Brown because he can just beat you over the top and go up there and snag it on someone, or do you want to help out the run game and help kind of like the middle field with Devontae Smith there and Saquon? So it's like the teams are really going to have to pick their poison, especially on this offensive team. So I think I fully agree that the Eagles are a buy now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I agree in investing in Jalen Hurts and the Eagles because of their schedule. But I just want to throw out a trade scenario that includes Jalen Hurts. Would you guys rather have Brock Purdy, Drake London, and Chuba Hubbard, or Jalen Hurts and Jonathan Taylor?
Hurts and Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor. This shouldn't even be a question. But let's just move on. So
Bro,
I don't even know why you brought that question up. That is awful. But yeah, just going back to the Eagles. Like I said last year, Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb were the wide receiver one and the quarterback one from week 6 on. And I believe that's what Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown are going to be this year. And I will die on that mountain because it's going to happen. I'm so confident that this is going to happen that I'm willing to buy these guys everywhere. But finally, for my last team that I'm buying, this might be a little bit of a surprise to some people, but it's the Tennessee Titans. And so we know that the Tennessee Titans have looked awful. Will Levis looks like a sack of potatoes out there. But with that being said, they have a week 5 bye, just like the Eagles, and 8 of their next 12 matchups after their week bye are against bottom 10 defenses when it comes to wide receivers and quarterbacks, like a trend we've seen with these last 2 teams. And when it comes to DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley specifically, I would be looking to buy these guys, and I think you can get them super cheap. I mean, I was actually just able to pick up DeAndre Hopkins off of a waiver wire in one of my leagues. And I just think that these guys are going to be – I don't think they're going to explode onto the scene like anything crazy, but I think they're going to be solid for your team. I think they're easy buys. I think you can get them cheap, super, super cheap. Yeah, man, I just think that the Titans are going to come out here and they're just going to – after the week, they're going to get their stuff together. And Isaiah's hot take of Will Levis throwing for 4,000 yards may not come true, but they're going to be pushing for that in the back half of the year, even starting after their bye. What do you guys think about this take right here?
Yeah, I agree. Will Levis has been playing like the new Carson Wentz. That is for sure, where this guy is a bona fide nuthead sometimes. And it is kind of insane to see some of the plays he's done. He currently has, 500 yards. He has 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. We can even see the coach being like, bro, what are you doing in some of the plays? It's like, you're costing us the game. I think after the bye, I think the buys matter a lot. I think after buys, team realized, okay, we got to switch it up. That's why I'm high on Patrick Mahomes. And I think I agree with this take that after the bye, I think they're going to realize we're going to need to run the rock with Tony Pollard, and we're going to need to throw 40-yard bombs to Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins. and that's how we're gonna win games because Will Levis is sometimes something. He's something else, straight up. So as long as he starts playing not like an absolute nut, I think the Titans would definitely start playing better.
I think DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley are worth a waiver wire ad. They're worth having on your team. I think they're definitely a buy low because you can probably get them for absolutely nothing. I just like to revisit the question of Isaiah's hot take. I've been taking a lot of hate recently for my Amari Cooper hot take, but the Tennessee Titans look absolutely awful. So I just want to throw that out there.
My take was hot.
I just want to throw that out there. I mean, 1,500 yards and 100 receptions is pretty hot if you ask me. But we'll just move on to that.
I mean,
hey, it's not over until it's over.
I mean, right now the closest person is me with my hot take because I think Brian Thomas has been playing the best out of our three players. But that's just a side note. But yeah, man, Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins are both buys for me. Their playoff schedule is solid as well. Like heading from even like I said, after the bye is really good, but specifically week 13. I know this is before the playoffs, but week 13 they play Washington. We know what that's all about. Then they play Jacksonville. They've just got cooked by Josh Allen. But then they play Cincinnati. That's a little bit of tough first playoff matchup. But if you can get through that, you got Indianapolis, which is the fourth worst defense against the wide receivers, and then you get Jacksonville again, which are just both in semifinals and finals are great matchups for the receiver position. So if you can make it to the playoffs with these guys, I think that they could be solid starts to be like a backbone of your team and get you that championship ring. So yeah, overall, I'm buying the Bears, the Eagles, and the Titans because I think they're all about to go crazy. I think that's all we got for you guys on this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you after this week, and we will be recapping Sunday. So see you guys.
Peace out.